thank you everyone for joining our Experience the GDL, How You Will Study and Succeed webinar. So we'll be recording this session, but we're very happy that a lot of people you have decided to join us live, and obviously we will try and answer your questions throughout the session, and also we'll make sure we have plenty of time at the end. So I've had a look through those sort of pre-submitted questions of things that people are looking to learn from tonight's session already. We try to make sure that we cover as much of that as possible that's relating to studying on the GDL, but also please do feel free to use the chat box there as well to pop in any other questions, and we'll try and cover as much as we can there. Closed captions have been enabled, so if you need to access those at all, you should be able to do so. Okay, so my name is Nicola Gorge. I am the Student Recruitment Manager here at the College of Legal Practice. I oversee the recruitment of students, much of which is, explaining obviously about the different programs that we offer and helping to guide you on what's the suitable options for you. And also obviously putting on sessions like this evening. I'm joined by Lara, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Lara and I work under Nicola as the Student Recruitment Officer. My role is quite similar to Nicola's in the sense of I sort of have one-to-one sessions with prospective students, I give advice on the courses in which we offer, and also discuss the best possible pathway. I also run different webinars as well, and also attend different events and sort of give information on the courses in which we offer at the college as well. I'll also introduce Kathryn, who's also on the call with us as well.
Thanks, Lara. Thanks to everyone for joining us this evening. I'm Dr. Kathryn Dutton and I'm the GDL lead here at the College of Legal Practice, which effectively means I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Graduate Diploma in law. I'm a criminal lawyer by background, got about 25 years experience of supporting students at all kinds of different levels, from foundation degree to PhD study. I'll tend to ask you where you're from because I've worked all across the UK and internationally. I was head of law at York St John and deputy head of law at Chester. So I'm always interested in where you're joining us from across the country and what your experiences are. But hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions you've got about the GDL this evening or anything about legal education.
Brilliant. Thanks, both. So here's what we will be aiming to cover then this evening. So I'll give you a quick overview of who we are here. Obviously talking about what the GDL actually is and who it's for. We're going to be explaining what the programme covers. And Kathryn will be going into detail then obviously about what it covers, but how you will study it, and also how you'll be assessed for it as well, because I know that's often something that people are really keen to find out about, what the assessments are like on that. And as I said, obviously make sure we come to your questions as well. So then, if you're not too familiar with us, the College of Legal Practice, we are an accredited, fully virtual postgraduate law school based in the UK, and we specialise in SQE provision, but we developed the GDL really to assist those who are looking to go on to the SQE, because obviously there was a bit of a gap there if someone hadn't studied law. But
Can I just pitch in there, Nicola, for a moment? Sorry to cut across you, but I'm just conscious we're being joined by all kinds of people today, and we talk about SQE all day, but the SQE is the Solicitors Qualifying Examination. So at any point, if we do slip into acronyms or there's anything we're saying that we talk about every day of the week, please do just pop it in the chat and we'll pick it up. Sorry, Nicola.
No, Kathryn, that's very valid. And I was just going to say also, as you'll hear, the GDL is also suitable for going on to studying for the bar as well. So our ethos is that we are very focused on offering accessible and affordable legal education. The legal profession has been known for having many barriers to entry, and the cost of studying has always been one of them. So we do our bit to try and keep our costs down as low as possible. We offer personal and flexible learning, and we're really highly rated by our students as well. You'll see there's a number of different logos on there, and we partner with law firms and legal departments to support their employees through different programs that we offer. And we also do partner with some other universities as well, where we offer the SQE prep, so the Solicitors Qualifying Exam preparation side of their LLMs as well. So let's move on then and let's dive straight into what is the GDL. So just going to give you a very brief overview first of all, and then Kathryn's going to go into the full details. So essentially, our GDL is a recognised conversion course, and it's covering the 7 foundations of law, which Kathryn will be explaining about. It provides a really robust foundation for professional training and progressing on, as we mentioned, to working towards becoming a solicitor or towards the bar route as well, covering those foundation areas that someone would have covered had they studied, for example, a UK LLB. It's a really short, focused course. It's available full-time or part-time, and we'll be explaining the difference between those different routes and the amount of study hours per week there. But the cost of the programme is £3,950, regardless if you study full-time or part-time. So it's for then someone who has a degree. So you need to have a degree or equivalent qualification already, but it doesn't have to be law. I mean, essentially, there's no point in going on to it if you've already studied law. This is for those, and I'm quite often asked, well, can I go on to it if I haven't studied law? Yes, exactly, you can. This is exactly what it's for. Or you may actually have studied law, but outside of England and Wales. And you're wanting to get that grounding just of English and Welsh law. You may be actually have studied so much that you're actually internationally qualified, perhaps internationally qualified lawyer. But again, wanting to focus on the law here. Or you may have worked in legal practice again, but not actually have that legal qualification that you're needing. So entry requirements, as I mentioned, is to have a degree. We usually look for a 2-2 degree, or it could be an equivalent level qualification, or it could actually be something like 3 A levels plus 2 years plus of legal work experience as well. Sometimes that fits with someone's circumstances as well, and we can still consider them. And if English isn't your first language, we would need IELTS at 6.5 with 6 in each component, or again, an equivalent English qualification. So I'm going to hand you over to Kathryn then, who's going to give you much more in-depth detail, which I know you're going to be looking for. So do you go, Kathryn?
Thanks, Nicola. Really useful. And you know, just to come in a little bit, we do occasionally get students who join us on the GDL who have got a law degree, but they've done it a number of years ago. So, you know, if you've done a law degree, but it was 20 years ago and you're thinking of returning to the law, the GDL can help just refresh your memory, I suppose. So we have a huge range of people come and study the GDL with us. But in terms of what we cover, as Nicola pointed out, we cover the foundations of law. Now, the foundations of law you may have come across before, but the foundations of law are 7 subjects: the English legal system, criminal law, contract law, tort law, land law, public law, and trusts. Now, those foundation areas are required whether you want to qualify as a solicitor or you want to qualify as a barrister. You cannot qualify for professional practice without having those foundational areas and without having a good understanding of those foundational areas. Now, any law degree you look at effectively is structured around those foundation areas. On a 3-year law degree or a 4-year law degree, they are the subjects that you would see listed as core or compulsory subjects because they are the fundamentals. Okay, and we've got technical and practical proficiency on the slide, but they are the fundamentals of what you need to know. Now, our GDL is designed around giving you that in a very focused way. So if you studied at a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree, you would study those subjects and perhaps some additional modules. You might study media law or What else could you do? Maritime law. You would do an optional subject around those, but that's not compulsory to become a legal professional. So what we do on the GDL is we take the fundamentals and we package them in an accessible way for you to make sure that effectively you've got the core need to knows. And any GDL will do that for you. It's giving you those 7 foundation areas without any of the additional or the optional or the nice to know around it. The next slide, please, Nicola.
Just in case you want to pick this up now, someone's just asked, is the public law constitutional law?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, Choco. Sometimes when we're reading the slides and we're concentrating, I don't always see messages in the chat. Do pop them in there and we'll either pick them up now or we'll pick them up at the end. Really good question. You will see public law packaged in different ways. And one of the interesting things when you're looking at different programs, whether that's 3-year degree, a 4-year degree, a different kind of GDL, a course offered by somewhere else, is you might find that different and interchangeable names are used. So public law, we tend to use the phrase public law to describe constitutional and administrative law and human rights and EU law. So we've got our public law module that covers all the bits of those that are your need to knows for your 7 foundation subjects. Other terms that you might see used, you sometimes see contract and tort described as obligations. It might be packaged in a slightly different way. But what you need to ensure, whether you're looking at our course or whether you're looking at a course elsewhere, is that you are covering those 7 foundation areas as required in England and Wales. So you've got knowledge of those areas. Hope that answers your question, Choco. Thank you, Nicola. Okay, we're going to pop on to the next slide. Brilliant, thank you. So we did promise a deep dive into the College of Legal Practice GDL today, because quite often we get a lot of detailed questions about what that course looks like. Now, obviously, if you came to study with us, we have an induction where we explain all this in detail. So please don't feel you've got to remember everything today. You don't, but we want to give you a taste of what that might feel like if you were studying with us. So we understand we have a wide range of students, and it's one of the reasons I love teaching the GDL, because we get students from all over the world and from all kinds of different backgrounds. So if your question today is the GDL for me? Please don't worry. We get asked that every time, and I get asked that by a huge range of individuals who've come to our programme and really got something out of it. But what we do to cope with that diversity of students is we start everyone off in the same place. So it doesn't matter if you've got 3 law degrees already, but you feel like they're a bit out of date. You've got one from France and one from the UK. It doesn't matter if you've got all of that or if you've got nothing at all and you've not studied for the past 20 years, because all our students start in the same place on a module called Introduction to Law. So Introduction to Law is a deep dive where we immerse you in the fundamentals of the English legal system and the skills that you need to succeed on this programme. So that really levels things for everyone, whether you feel confident that you know quite a bit about the legal system already, or you come from a different country or a different jurisdiction. You think, oh, you might come from Scotland. You think, well, I know about Scottish law, but I don't understand about the English legal system. It really doesn't matter, because we put all our students in the same place. We immerse you in a relatively intensive period of study, which is more intense than the later modules, and you study those fundamental concepts. So we look at system, we look at the court structure, we look at the role of legal professionals, we look at what a case is, we look at what a statute is, and we cover all of that. So we call it a unit, but effectively that means you do 8 specific topics within that, and for each of those units you have a workshop. Okay, so 8 workshops on Introduction to Law. At the end of those 8 workshops, you are assessed. So we make sure that everybody is in a fit place to move on, and you've established those foundations before we start the next subjects, and we give you feedback on how you've done. Now, feedback is integrated, so every time you go to a workshop, you will get feedback from a subject matter expert, and I'll go on to talk about that a little bit more shortly. But you also get a chance to hand in some work and get some written feedback on that work too. So Introduction to Law gets you off to a really sound start for the rest of the programme. Then we move to what we call Block A, but effectively all that means, if you think about the GDL as being split into 3 parts, Introduction to Law is the first part. We then move to the second part of the course, and this is the same whether you're studying full-time or part-time, but we move to the second part of the course, and in that second part of the course, you cover 3 topic areas. You cover contract, crime, and tort. So that's part 2. When you get to the end of studying contract, crime, and tort, you sit assessments. Now, those assessments take the form of 3 courseworks and 3 multiple choice question tests. And again, I'll come back to talk about assessment a little bit later on in more detail, but you sit the assessments immediately after you finish studying for those modules. So the information is still fresh in your mind. And what the other thing that means is while you are going through the programme, you are receiving feedback all the time. So assessment is not to catch you out. I know assessment is always a scary word, isn't it? But we integrate assessment within our course structure. So you are receiving regular feedback throughout your studies. We use it as part of the learning process. So see it as a tool. It's a tool to help you see how you are going, what you're achieving, and what you have learned. So part 1, Introduction to Law. Part 2, Block A, Contract, Crime and Tort. Complete your assessment, and then we move to part 3 of the course when you study your final 3 topic areas: land law, public law, and trusts law. So you study those 3 areas, and then we move to the end of Block B, and again, you are assessed. So the structure of the programme, 3 discrete elements to move you through. We start off with that deep dive in Introduction to Law. You then study 3 substantive subjects and you are assessed. Then we move you to a further 3 substantive subjects and then you are assessed. Now, when you are looking at competing course structures, the way we would describe this course structure is short and fat, a little bit like me, short and fat. So what we're doing, the short and fat approach, is really about giving you that opportunity to really study in depth in an intensive way. And we find that way works best for most students. The other way you could do it is long and thin, which I've often aspired to, but I'll probably never get there. I'm certainly not getting any taller. If we did long and thin, as some institutions do, you would be studying all 6 subjects at the same time. You'd be studying contract, crime, tort, land, public and trusts all together. Now, what we found with our students is that's quite a lot to manage while you're managing work, family life, outside commitments. So we don't do that. Some places do that. And if you think that might work better for you, you certainly, investigate, think about what works best for you. But this approach enables you to really focus on a smaller number of modules for a shorter period of time and then complete your assessments. Now, I've started to really drift on because it's always hard, isn't it, to talk about the course without talking about how it happens. So hopefully you'll forgive me for a bit of overlap. Kieran, Marcello, I've seen your questions in the chat and we will pick them up at the end, I promise. And if there is anything that I'm sliding over or isn't making sense, by all means, pop in the chat and we'll have plenty of time for questions. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of this programme, the principal way in which we communicate with you is via workshops. So each of these areas is supported by a series of workshops. Now, I said with Introduction to Law, you study 8 workshops. You take part in 8 workshops. Those workshops are live, synchronous sessions that we run throughout the programme. So you get 8 on Introduction to Law and you get 4 for every remaining topic area. So Each of the topic areas has workshops associated with them. The other thing that's not particularly evident, oh, I've just seen my picture, that reminds me. I should say that the workshops run on a cycle. So you've done Introduction to Law, you've got your first few weeks of the course out of the way. When we move into the second part of the course, where you're studying contract, crime and tort, so things don't get too boring, what happens is that you will study a contract workshop, then you might do a tort workshop, then you might do a crime workshop, and then the cycle starts again. So you do get to alternate those subjects. Now, there's a couple of reasons we do that. One is, if you don't particularly like a topic area, it would be very soul destroying to think, oh, I've now got 5 weeks of contracts and I'm not particularly keen on contracts. So it's entirely natural to have some preferences. Unfortunately, land is my particular pet hate. If anybody's wondering, I'm a criminal lawyer. I can't stand doing land. Unfortunately, if you want to qualify as a legal professional, you have to have competence in all of these areas. So we do mix it up to allow for that and to allow for it for a little bit of thinking and reflection. It's also building your resilience for SQE. So when you sit your SQE, you will be expected to move between subjects. So again, we're building your resilience for SQE at the same time. So that's how the workshops work. And again, I'll come back to them and talk a little bit more detail about those. The thing that's not particularly visible in the pictorial on the course structure are the other things that happen during the course. So, as well as studying for your particular subject areas, the course is supported by a series of information meetings. So, at strategic points in the course, we hold information meetings to tell you what is happening. I've already mentioned induction. So, when you start, week 1, day 1, we have course information session 1, where we explain the structure of the program, and we talk about what you will be doing, and we introduce to everything you need to know. And again, we have another information meeting before you sit. So course information meeting 2 happens before you sit your assessment on the Introduction to Law module, so you fully understand what's happening with that assessment. So when I say strategic points, we have information meetings that everyone can attend. And again, this is something to check when you're looking at different courses. These are live synchronous meetings where a subject matter expert is giving you information, core course information that you need to know, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So they're course information meetings. If you're on the full-time course, there are 5 course information meetings. If you're on the part-time course, there are 6 course information meetings. We have an additional one because the course is that bit longer, so we like to check in and touch base. The other thing you will experience on the course structure are personal supervision meetings. Personal supervision meetings are your opportunity to meet with a tutor who is appointed to you at the start of the course, who is your one-to-one first point of contact. So as soon as you start the course, you will be matched with a member of staff who will be your personal supervisor, and they will support your journey throughout the course. And again, we have 5 personal supervisor meetings for students on the full-time programme and 6 personal supervisor meetings for students on the part-time programme. So the first of your personal supervisor meetings is given over to a group meeting. So you might have 20 students who have the same personal supervisor as you. And we have a group meeting where you get not only to meet your supervisor, but you also get to meet some of your colleagues on the course, which is really nice, gives you the opportunity to make links. But after that point, the remainder of your personal supervision meetings are one-to-one meetings. So you get that opportunity to speak with a member of staff who will support you on your learning journey. So you can ask them advice about study skills, you can ask them advice about the progress of your studies. And again, we have those at strategic points. So after you've received your assessment results on Introduction to Law and you're about to go into your second part, the Block A subjects, you will have a meeting with your personal supervisor and you'll get to chat about how you're doing and your feelings about you as you move through the programme of study. So that's personal supervisor meetings. The other things that you will experience during the course, we have a weekly module leader drop-in time. So I have a virtual office hour where students on the GDL can just drop into my Zoom room and come and ask me any questions they want to about the GDL. Occasionally we have more than one student drop in and we have a nice chat. Sometimes we just have a cup of coffee. Sometimes students drop in to ask detailed questions about the course, but you will have those kinds of drop-in sessions which are entirely voluntary. You know, just come along if you have questions or if you want to say hello. They are not compulsory. The other thing that you will experience on the GDL are something we call consolidation weeks. So in between these different bits of the course, so part 1, part 2, part 3, or block A and block B, we have little breaks to enable you to reflect on your progress and prepare for the next stage of the study. So that's built in as well. We are getting some quite detailed questions in the chat, which are kind of hard for me to keep up with while I'm talking, guys. So I think if we pop the questions to the end, Nicola, is that okay? Are you able
Yeah,
to
that's
keep?
fine. I'm keeping an eye on them just in case there's anything sort of specifically relating to, the slides that you're on. But I think, like you said, they're quite detailed, some of them, so we'll make sure we go through.
Brilliant, Nicola. Thank you. If you could, I did see, and forgive me, I didn't quite catch the name of the person that popped the question in the chat. I did see one question about the timing of the workshops. Core business hours of the College of Legal Practice are between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So we do commonly get asked that question. What I can tell you is for our forthcoming part-time GDL starting this August, we are attempting as far as we can to schedule those workshops at lunchtimes between 12 and 2 and to have options earlier and later in the day, so between 4 and 6 and 1 in the morning too. So the likelihood is there will be some flexibility. Another thing we try to do with the part-time GDL is to keep as many sessions on the same day of the week as possible to enable you to structure your work around that. Now, if you do have very specific personal questions, the answer I have to give you is that our core hours are between 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday. We do record all workshops if you want to catch up on them afterwards, but if you do have very specific questions about workshop timing and feasibility in terms of your particular personal situation, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with us and we will give you as much information as we can. We do try to be as certain as we can, but obviously one of the great things about our workshops is they are delivered by what we call subject matter experts, and that means we draw on a range of staff. We have core staff who are permanently employed by the college, like me, but we also have a range of outside experts from practice and academia who come in and deliver our workshops. So you are getting the very best people from the forefront of their particular areas all the time, and that is a great strength, but it does sometimes mean that we have to schedule at particular times of the day. So as I say, if you've got very specific questions on that, please do come back to us and we will try to help. Can I get the next slide, please, Nicola?
Certainly, I'll just load it up. There's another question as well, which I think will probably sort of link to this next slide, Kathryn. Someone's asking about with our partnership universities, is there any access to sort of libraries because they prefer physical books rather than electronic resources. I don't think we do have access, to be honest, to any other universities, but Kathryn is going to explain exactly what is covered. So I thought I'd just highlight that one now for you, Kathryn.
You know, it's a great question, and it's one I have a great deal of sympathy for because I work for a virtual organisation, and there's so many advantages to what we do now in terms of people being able to join us from all over the world, and there are so many things I love about online. I hate reading online too, and you can see my little bits of paper by the side of me. I'm old school in terms of printing out and having hard copy. It's an excellent question. Bear with me while I give a slightly complex answer. The very simple answer I could give you is no. We don't have any deals with our universities to use libraries. I think the first thing perhaps I would say, I remember being at a particular institution a number of years ago, and I was quite horrified when they introduced moving shelves to free up space in the library. And you had to press these buttons and the shelves kind of moved backwards and forwards depending on what you wanted, which, I like a Victorian library with oak bookshelves. And what I would say is any higher education provider that you study with now, you will find that an awful lot of the provision has gone online just because of the sheer volume of information that we can now access, and particularly for lawyers. I mean, crikey, I went to university. I studied at Birmingham, for any of you in Birmingham. But I went to university before the internet was widespread, believe it or not. And that was a completely different kind of experience. But now, particularly because you're studying law, particularly because lots of things happen in law and updating is almost continual, we have the very best resources in terms of that continually updated law. And if you come to study with the College of Legal Practice on the GDL, you will have access to Westlaw, which is a fantastic resource. That's one of the resources they use in legal practice. And the advantage of Westlaw over a traditional library is, I would never go into a library now and look for a statute as I might have done in ye olden days, when you go through these multi-volume things. I could even show you a video on it. Now you just go onto your computer and you've got the most up-to-date version of the law. If there was a case decided a week ago, chances are it's on Westlaw already. And that is a massive advantage. Coming on the GDL, you get access to Westlaw, which is a very expensive piece of kit, and it's the one they use in legal practice. We are also conscious of the way we operate. So students often come to me and they go, the GDL, will I get extra marks on my assessments if I go and do research outside what you've given us? And the answer is no. If you study with the GDL, you get given manuals, which are your guides. It's effectively the textbook for each module area. So we give you the GDL manual. You have a specific section for each of those topics, which is written by a practice expert drawing on all this material, and that's your kind of textbook. Now, we give it to you in hard copy. You get it online as well, but you do still get that hard copy. You get access to Westlaw, and as I'll show you really shortly, our basic design is what we call directed independent study. So I've already mentioned workshops, but prior to these workshops, we ask you to do preparation, a big part of which is reading, but all the reading you need to do is supplied by the college. You are not required to do any research outside of that, because that's not what we're testing. This is not a research degree. This is not about you must go off and find this and find that. This is about you learning the fundamentals of law that you need to go on to qualify as a practitioner. So we give you all the material you need. Your job is to really become familiar with that material, to be able to understand it, and critically, to apply it in a practical context. So how would we describe that? Well, our GDL is 90 credits at level 6. So think about the equivalent of third year of a degree qualification. And our GDL is structured around this idea of directed independent study. Most of your preparation, we do have live, what we call synchronous. So live, like you're talking to me now, you will have the option to come into a virtual classroom and it'll be just like as if we were in person, except we're doing it online. You will come to classes. But for those classes to work and for your study to work, we give you preparation to do. for these classes. Now, I'm going to show you just shortly what that looks like, but you get detailed instructions at every stage. So we call it independent study, but that is not us going off and saying, learn everything you can about criminal law. We give you step-by-step instructions so you cannot get lost. Now, within these instructions, we provide all the reading that you need, and we provide all the resources you need. Your job is to read, to study, to listen to the podcast, to watch the video, and to answer the questions, and then attend the workshops and check out that understanding with us. The workshops are really good fun. You know, people do the preparation, they come along, they're very inclusive. You know, people tend to build up good links and develop good relationships in those workshops. They are your testing ground. They're your opportunity to test out your understanding of the law and receive advice. Now, every one of these workshops, when you get, I'm not talking about introduction to law now, because that's very specific. So that specific induction period, I'm just going to leave on one side for a moment, because that's designed to really take you through step by step. But once you get to your main subjects, your contract, your criminal law, your tort law, every workshop that you attend is based on you doing preparation to answer what we call a scenario. What is a scenario? Well, it's a problem question based in real life. So prior to every workshop, we will give you a problem question, and we will ask you to apply the law that you have read about and that you've learned over the course of the preceding week or two, and apply it to that particular problem. We get you to fill out a very structured template to help you with that, and you come to the workshop and you discuss it. The other thing you will do in advance of the workshop is you will get some practice multiple choice questions to test your understanding, and we discuss those in the workshop together. Now, for those of you that want to be a solicitor, you will know that the solicitor's qualifying examination is largely based around multiple choice questions. It's multiple choice question examination. So those practice questions are really helpful in getting our students ready for study on the SQE. So they're not only helpful in testing your knowledge, they're helpful in starting to build that resilience for the SQE. So as I said, the workshops are live, they're interactive, you get to check your understanding with the subject matter expert, and you get to discuss it with your course colleagues. We do always record every single workshop. So if you can't attend one, if you miss it, or you're working that day, you can pick up the recording afterwards. I think that'd be a really good point, Nicola. If you could just pause the slides for a moment. I'm going to share my Canvas. Oh, I need to request it. I'm going to share my Canvas platform with you, and then you can see what a workshop looks like. So I picked up the first one I could find before I came and joined you all today, and this is a public law workshop. So in your Canvas calendar, you would see, we have an online calendar, you would see you had a public workshop coming up. So workshop 1 for the public law, you can see here that we have activity instructions. And what you have is a range of independent learning activities. So this is the preparation that you would do in your free time before attending the workshops. Now, we give you a guidance on preparation time. So the approximate total preparation time is 18 hours. That's probably a little bit more than you would need to do. Preparation time is entirely up to you. We give you we give you guidance time, but it's up to you when you do that preparation, or even if you can do that much preparation, you might only be able to do 12 hours, and that's okay. But we have to give some guidelines as to what you would need to do. And you can see every single activity takes you through what you need to do. So first activity introduces the concept of the rule of law, and you have a media item that you would click on. Now, that's either going to be a podcast or it will be a video. You watch the item and you are asked to make your own notes. So it's not all reading. We try and give you some media items as well where we can. As I said, prior to every workshop, you do get a case study, which is a problem question to complete, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But you're also given extra things to look at. So we ask you to look at a statute under Activity 2. You're asked to look at some government guidance, and then we tell you very specifically which bits you need to complete on an answer sheet. That's all the template is. It's an answer sheet to help you structure your answers. Some of that won't make immediate sense today because you're not in the swing of the course, but hopefully what you can see from this is a little bit of a taster of how you get your activities broken down for you so you can't get lost. We tell you very specifically what to do step by step. So you are getting the most important parts of the reading, and it is centered around discrete tasks and activities. Now, I will show you the case study just for a moment because it's quite nice seeing how that would operate in practice. If I can just find that for you. So the case study that you were directed to click through, hopefully you can see that. Could everyone see that? It's not very big, is it? Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. So this is a good example of how our case studies are really situated in practice. So this is very much a real life example of what you might be expected to deal with. You can see you're asked to consider an email from a partner in a law firm that gives you some very specific information on an issue and asks you to consider it. So we're not just looking at, I guess what I'm saying is we're not just looking at the law in abstract. We're not looking at big legal theory. This is not, it's not a research degree. It's not a purely academic qualification. We are really conscious that most of the people that come and study the GDL with us want to go on to legal practice. So we situate this knowledge in very practical context to help you learn, and it makes it more interesting. So you can see the partner asks you to do very specific things, to provide them with an overview of parliamentary sovereignty in the context of this question and the rule of law, and asks you to pick out the issues. So what happens while you're doing this preparation is everybody does the same preparation. You come to the workshop. You are not assessed in these workshops. They are your informal opportunity to test your knowledge, to learn and to discuss your answers with others. And we find that this is a really effective way for people not only to learn the law, but also to enjoy what they're doing. Okay, just seeing if there's any quick questions coming in. None that's relevant at this point. I think I can go back to the slides now, Nicola.
Okay.
You've actually all been really, really patient because I think I'm going to go on to the assessment slide. Assessment usually rears its ugly head before we get to this point. I get asked about assessment a lot, and as I said midway through, I think maybe you've all listened to me. I do hope so. Assessment isn't meant to frighten you. We need to make sure for the integrity of our qualifications so that you know you're getting a quality qualification. Of course, we need to assess. We need to check that you have met the standard required. But we are working with you to ensure that you are meeting that standard. Okay, so we do assess. We assess via written work and multiple choice questions, as you saw. For every one of the substantive modules, so the core modules, you complete a scenario template. Now, that's the second time I've said scenario template, isn't it? Because the scenario template you complete for your assessment is exactly the same scenario template that you have completed in all the workshops you have attended. So by the time you get to the scenario template, you've had 12 practices in every block, okay? I'm looking at Nicola because my maths is notoriously terrible, but that's right, isn't it? You have done a lot of practice. by the time you get to the assessment point. So nobody's trying to catch you out. We do need to check you've got the knowledge. We need to check that you are worthy of holding the College of Legal Practice qualification, you know, and I won't mince my words on that. We want to make sure that your qualification is valuable and you have met a particular level. Of course, we have to do that, but nobody is trying to catch you out. We want to support you to achieve that standard. So we do lots of practice before you get to that assessment point. Obviously, it's a different question when we get to the assessment point. We're not setting you the same question. It's a different question, but you've had lots and lots of practice and lots of opportunities to ask questions. So 75% of your mark comes from an 1,800-word piece of coursework, which is similar to the questions you've looked at each week in the workshops. 25% of your mark comes from multiple choice question tests, where you are required to answer 15 questions in 45 minutes. Now, that is exactly the same for each of the 6 foundation subjects. Introduction to Law is slightly different because we are starting you off gently in your studies. So for Introduction to Law, 68% of your mark will come from a series of short answer questions and a research exercise. 32% of your mark will come from multiple choice question tests. You have opportunities to practice these in the workshops leading up to that assessment point. So what I am saying is, yes, there are assessments. Yes, the assessments are challenging, but if you have completed your workshop work, done your workshop work, learnt your material, there is no reason why you should be nervous about the assessments. And, you know, I'm supporting students through assessment points at the moment. We've currently got 3 deliveries of the GDL, and all of the students are at assessment points at the moment. So I'm answering lots of questions at the moment as students patiently wait for the results. But the biggest reason people do not pass assessments on the GDL is if they fail to submit. If you attend your workshops, if you do your preparation work and you submit your assessment, then you will have a very good chance of passing those assessments. Obviously, I can't guarantee it because I've never seen your work, but you will, if you do everything we ask you to do and you come to us if you've got questions, you will have every opportunity to pass those assessments. Choco, I'm going to pick that one up first. I know you're not first in the queue, but time to complete the assessments. You'll notice some things I've scooted over a bit because they differ according to whether you're doing the full-time or the part-time course. So it gets a bit confusing if I keep trying to switch between the two all the time. But if any of you do have any questions, I will happily answer that. So the kind of rhythm or the cadence of the courses differs according to whether you're doing full-time or part-time. It's still the same essential structure, but the biggest difference is that the time period is shorter. So obviously the full-time course is 20 weeks, the part-time course is 40 weeks. Biggest difference in practice. On the full-time, you do 2 workshops a week. On the part-time, you would do 1 workshop a week. There is a difference in assessment. Introduction to Law assessment stays the same because, again, that's slightly different because that's all about inducting you into the programme and getting you off to that flying start with your study. So I'm going to concentrate on the other 2 parts of the course when you're really in the swing. Now, you still have to do the same assessment, but on the full-time course, you get 3 weeks to complete your scenarios. So you get 3 weeks clear of teaching. Your teaching finishes, then you get 3 weeks to complete the scenarios, and you get a 1-week window to complete your multiple choice question tests. So you have to do 15 questions in 45 minutes for each module. But if you chose to do that at 2 o'clock on a Monday morning, or you wanted to do it at 8 a.m. Sydney time, that's fine as long as you do it within a 1-week window. Okay, so when you start the test, you have to do it within 45 minutes, but you get to pick, you choose. And again, it's another great advantage of working online. You choose anywhere in that week where you might do the test. Now, slightly different for the part-time course. You get longer because it's part-time study. So if you're on the part-time course, you get 4 weeks to complete your scenario templates, and you get a 2-week window to do those multiple choice question tests. So you get slightly longer for the assessments on the part-time course. Now, all of those things I've just said, if you have specific learning needs or you have specific issues where you might need longer for your assessments if you've had agreed adjustments in the past or you've got reasonable adjustments for assessment protocol, we do encourage you to come and talk to the college, because we can put those adjustments in place if you've got a specific learning need or there is something particular we need to take into account. Come and speak to us personally.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kathryn. I know the questions are coming through still. We've just got a couple more slides just on some of the basic information, which I think will be useful and help with some of these questions as well. And then we will make sure we go through all the questions that you've got posted in the chat there. So thanks, Kathryn. Have a breather, and then you can help us out with other questions that are coming through. But I'm going to hand you over to Lara now as well, just to go through our last few slides.
Perfect, thank you. And thanks, Kathryn, for that very detailed insight into the GDL. So if you do want to access the information in which Kathryn has said and some parts which she's spoken about, you can scan the QR code on the screen and that will take you to the course demo. So it'll give you more insight into the GDL course and a better and more of an insight into the course as well. Up on the screen are some stats, and this is from a student module survey, and this basically is some information and stats about some of the students who have studied the GDL course with us and what they thought about it as well. So you can see 86% of students were satisfied or very satisfied with the teaching materials and the learning activities which are provided in the GDL. 80% of students were satisfied or very satisfied with the programme, and also 86% of students were satisfied or very satisfied with the one-to-one supervisor meetings. That's something which is really important to us as well, and there's lots of support which is available to you as a student for all of our courses, and in particular the Graduate Diploma in Law as well. I have the next slide, thank you. So the Graduate Diploma in Law, there are lots of benefits to this course. So as Kathryn has already said, the course is delivered fully, completely online. And it does actually help to prepare you for further studying, whether that be the SQE or whether you want to go on to the bar training courses. It also gives you and supports you in gaining knowledge of the foundation areas of the law in England and Wales, and covers those 7 areas. And it helps to increase your chances of passing the SQE first time. If you study the GDL with us and then you decide to go on to our additional courses which we offer, such as the SQE or the LLM in legal practice, then you would also be eligible for a 10% discount as well on courses which are already very competitively priced. So that's something which does entice a lot of students to study with us, because obviously it also helps that obviously they get the 10% discount and the courses are very competitively priced and a lot more affordable than other providers out there. Thank you. So as we've already discussed, the GDL can be studied on a full-time 20-week programme or a part-time 40-week programme. And Kathryn has already sort of discussed the slightly differences between them. So for the full-time course, which is 20 weeks, your average learning will be between 30 to 35 hours of studying per week. And as a guide, you will complete the following activities. So each week you will have guided learning, and you will have 2-hour live workshops. So at the beginning, when you first start the course, you'll have 3 in your first 2 weeks, and then on average, it'll be 2 to 3 thereafter. You'll also go and have 6 information sessions, and they last 60 minutes each as well. And like we've already discussed, you have the personal supervisor sessions. So throughout the full-time GDL, you will have 5 in total, and they're approximately 10 minutes. So that will be with your personal supervisor sessions, and they're delivered throughout the programme. Whereas for the 40-week course, which is the part-time option which we offer, that is similar in the sense of it's still guided learning each week. You will have 2-hour live workshops. So it will be 2 to 3 workshops to begin with for the first 3 weeks while you're getting used to the course and starting. And then you'll have 1 a week on average. And the difference between the full-time and the part-time mainly is obviously the amount of hours you study per week. So for the part-time option, this is usually designed for those students, you know, who are working full-time, they've got busy lives and may have like additional outside work commitments, family. So this is the route that you would take. And on average, it's 15 to 20 hours of studying per week. So therefore, it's a lot more manageable. You will still have 6 information sessions, and these are 60 minutes each. And as Kathryn's already mentioned, you'll have 6 personal supervisor sessions throughout the program as well. So they're there to basically for like an additional level of support if needed. So we do have some upcoming start dates. So if you are looking at going on to the part-time courses, then the next available start date, which we have, is the 31st of August. So you still do have some time to apply, as the application ends on the 17th of August. If you were looking at going the full-time course, then they start on the 28th of September. And all applications, they are made directly online for our website. And it's a very quick, simple form which you complete, and it's free to do, and you can also save it, and then it will just get submitted. And it takes around less than 30 minutes as well. So it's a very quick form for you to fill out. The whole price of the course is £3,950, and this is split into instalments. So usually what happens is, when you submit an application, if you get given an offer to study with us, in order to basically enroll you onto the course, you will need to pay £150, and that will essentially sort of enroll you into your chosen program, so this being the GDL. And then 2 weeks before the program starts, you'll pay the first instalment. So this is £1,825. And then the second instalment, this is halfway through the program, and that is the last fee that you would pay. So that'll be £1,975. So it is split across the course just to make the payments a little bit more manageable. The QR code on the screen, that will take you directly to obviously the course fees, just so obviously it explains it in a bit more detail, just so you can refer back to it if needed.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laura.
No worries.
Lovely. So let's go on to the questions. And thank you, Kathryn. I know you've been trying to pick up some of the ones, sort of quick ones that you can go through on there as well. What I will just do as well on here is just leave up our contact details. But my aim will be to send out a copy of the recording and slides to everyone tomorrow. And I'll put in some resources that I think might be useful as well to answer some of these questions. But let's go through and see what else people would like to know.
Yeah, thanks, Nicola. Sorry if I was driving people mad. I was just trying. I'm conscious it's a really beautiful evening for those of us in parts of the world where it's sunny. So I was trying to pick up some of the quicker questions in the chat. I do know some of them are more complex. If you could help me a little bit, Nicola, and
Yeah, I'm just going to
try and
scroll
pick
back,
them.
and I think there's some which are quite specific to people's scenarios, which we can try and assist with as best we can.
While you're looking, shall I pick up that PGDL
Yeah.
GDL question? Because that's quite a complex one. So it's a really good question, guys. And I promise I wasn't ignoring any of you. But the PGDL GDL question is one we get quite commonly, but it's quite a detailed one. So some of you might have gone out. Some of you with excellent sharp senses and excellent budding lawyers will have picked up on the fact I mentioned the College of Legal Practice GDL is 90 credits at level 6. And I'm talking about the academic credit framework, but by which some of you might know, credits can be swapped across European institutions. So we're talking about this big framework of how we measure academic credit, and other institutions offer the GDL at what they call PGDL level. And there is some really quite misleading information out there on the internet. So the first thing I would say, don't panic. I've been talking about the academic regulations with my students earlier today, and I try not to bamboozle people too much with academic regulations because I know it can sound like we're starting to talk a completely different language. So no question is too daft. Please don't ever worry about asking a question. But I'll try and explain this as simply as I can because it's a very academically nerdy question because it's about academic level and credit volume. And that's the difference. It's academic level and credit volume. It's not a difference of professional validity. Quite simply, some courses are designed at different academic levels. So our course is designed at final year undergraduate level. That's the equivalent, level 6, final year UK undergraduate, I should say. Some courses are designed at postgraduate level, which is the level 7, which is the postgraduate level. Now, course designers, whenever I'm writing a new course or another course designer is writing a course, you make a choice about what level you pitch that at and how many credits it includes. And there's a lot of factors that go into that choice. But effectively, the decision we made, the college made a decision to offer the GDL 90 credits at level 6. Why did we do that? We did that because this is largely a conversion qualification for people that have already got degrees, and we just needed to cover the foundations of legal knowledge. So professionally, for aspiring solicitors, the SRA does not require that you do a GDL or a PGDL or any prior course of legal study. Now, I often say to students, please don't attempt to do the SQE without doing any law before, because even though the Solicitors Regulation Authority doesn't require it, it's almost impossible to pass the SQE unless you've got a little bit of prior legal knowledge. But the SRA, the Solicitors Regulation Authority, no longer prescribes anything. So the GDL will be more than sufficient for those of you wanting to qualify as a solicitor, and it's an excellent foundation for an SQE prep course. So that's that box text. I saw we had some questions from budding barristers in the chat. For aspiring barristers, what really matters is whether any conversion course you study satisfies the Bar Standards Board's academic component requirements. Now, the Bar Standards Board requires that you study the foundations of legal knowledge, which the GDL covers. So our GDL is suitable whether you want to go and be a solicitor, go and be a barrister, or even we do get people that just want to find out a bit more about the law. It's fine for that too. The only difference between a GDL and a postgraduate diploma in law is an academic one. It's about the level at which you study and the credits available to you. Now, some people, a PGDL, just to touch on that, all a PGDL is a larger level 7 postgraduate award. Now, we just said that's not relevant if you want to go into the professions, but it might be relevant if somebody specifically wants to study at postgraduate level. So some of you might specifically want to study at postgraduate level. If you do, then this GDL is not for you. It might be that you specifically intend to progress to a master's degree, or you want to use that credit towards a master's degree, then a PGDL is the right choice for you. If your employer requires that you study at postgraduate level, then again, the PGDL might be for you. Or if you wanted to study at postgraduate level for whatever reason, then that might be your route forward. But I guess what I want to get away from is that neither is a more valid route into the professions. You don't need to do it, and it doesn't necessarily offer you anything additional out with some very specific circumstances. We made our choice so we would have the flexibility that you could do a 20 or a 40-week course, so we could offer it at an achievable level within an achievable time frame. But yeah, it's only in very specific circumstances that you might absolutely need a postgraduate diploma in law. A GDL is suitable to becoming as the first steps towards that professional qualification.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kathryn.
Did that
okay,
make sense, Nicola?
It does to me, and I'm pretty sure it will to everyone else as well. But yeah, pop in the chat if that's not clear, but I think you covered that really well. Thank you. So scenario of someone who is a Silex lawyer, hasn't studied for 10 years, looking to cross-qualify as a solicitor and wondering whether this will be suitable as a refresher, but then also says as a refresher for SQE1, or would you recommend SQE1 prep course? Well, I would say certainly if you're going to look at doing the SQE, then to take the prep course. But I guess, Kathryn, it depends on how secure they would feel in terms of their level of studies previously. as to whether the GDL is necessary really at this stage.
Yeah, I think did we say 10 years, Nicola?
Mm.
Yeah, 10, I mean 10 years is quite a while, and under the old route, in the olden days, qualification for a solicitor, a good few years ago now, you used to be able to hold your law degree for 6 or 7 years before it went stale. Obviously that's gone now. 10 years is quite a length of time. But it does depend on your personal level of confidence. If it was me, I would probably do it. I'd probably do it to refresh my knowledge because I know from updating, we do the updating work, even updating the course materials and the manuals and the writing, so much can change in such a short space of time. It's not to say that you couldn't do it yourself. You all of you joining us today, you're educated professional people. You've come into the webinar, you're asking some fantastic questions. Yes, you could go away and you could, particularly if you've got previous legal education, you could review that law yourself. I think you need to ask yourself the practical question of whether you would do that. And the GDL will give you that structured framework to help you, to assist you, and you would have the backup of having subject matter experts on hand to try and explain it if any of it gets a little bit technical. And the GDL, obviously, it's covering areas that you will cover on the SQE prep course, but you've got a little bit more time to reflect and to get your head around it. I know cost is always a consideration, and I'm always tempering my advice to all kinds of students with cost, and I always encourage everyone to shop around. But it's like that question that people ask me that, they say, well, can't I just go and sit the SQE? You don't necessarily need anything other than a degree before you sit the SQE. It's like, well, yeah, you can. But that's one of the reasons why the failure rate for the SQE is quite high. The SQE is an expensive exam. We don't set the prices for the exam. I wish it was more cost effective for all of you. But if you are going to sit that expensive exam, I would put yourself in the very best position to be doing that. I don't know if there's anything else you would add in there, Nicola.
No, that's great, Kathryn. Another quite sort of specific question then about career changer, looking to explore opportunities within either financial crime, AML, or compliance. Does the GDL cover this area? But then they're also mentioning going on to potentially help with a career change and then go on to SQE. So I'm not sure how if we can assist with the sort of I mean, if someone's studying for a GDL and obviously hasn't studied law previously, it's only ever going to assist, isn't it, in terms of career opportunities, um, when applying for positions to show that you're on the path to studying and making your move into that area.
You might have seen it, Nicola. But I've recently been reviewing because we take student feedback really seriously, and we had a lovely comment from a student that came through the other day, and as I say, you might have seen it, Nicola, and they'd written in the feedback it was the best decision they'd made in 20 years, and whatever your reasons for doing the GDL, it can't hurt. You will gain skills from doing this. You will gain critical thinking skills. You will gain knowledge of the fundamentals of law. You will have the opportunity to come and orally discuss and problem solve. There's a whole range of skills that will be attractive. And I know we've had a few employment questions, and my apologies, my typing wasn't quick enough to get through all of them. There is nothing about the GDL that can hurt, and even at a personal development level, and I think that's where that student was coming from. I like it when I go on courses. That there's a lot you will get from this in terms of building your confidence. But the core purpose, and I hope that's come through today because we did go into the detail, but the core purpose of the GDL is to give you the fundamentals of law in an accessible, digestible format. Now, because that is what we're doing, and we're trying to do it in a cost-effective manner, no, we don't have any massive specialisms like anti-money laundering or financial crime. You might see those in an equivalent master's program, specialist masters or as optional modules on a full-time degree. But we are trying to do some, it's not to say that, you come to Module Leader drop-in time and I'll talk to you about it all afternoon. It's not to say we won't have the opportunity for ad hoc conversations, but our core purpose is to give you the fundamentals of law in the most accessible way possible so you can go off and do your legal careers or whatever you want to do next as fast as you can, but still have a really quality qualification to go for. Now, for us to do that, there are sacrifices we make. It influences what we teach and when we teach it and how we teach it. It does mean we don't have a great deal of time for optional modules, but if we had optional modules, the courses would be longer. So really, any of these questions, keep in mind what the GDL is trying to do. It's giving you those fundamentals. Those fundamentals will provide you with a rigorous introduction to the basics, which is a really sound foundation to then go on and do preparation for the legal professions. It will also give you, for those of you not quite sure whether you want to go into the professions or not, give you a really good introduction to law, and it'll give you bonus skills. So if you are looking for work, if you want to try and get a bit of work first before you do SQE prep, it can only help. If you go to, I'm not a careers expert, but if you go to a legal employer or a law firm with a CV that hasn't got any law study on it, and you've got a CV with a GDL on it, obviously they're going to think, well, this person has already started on their journey. That's just common sense. I don't think I'm making any massive marketing claims there, but that's what we do. That's what we're about. And we have fun while we're doing it, and we do talk about other things, but our core business is about providing you with those robust foundations.
Thanks, Kathryn. Some questions about what our students from the GDL have gone on to do. Certainly, we do have many that have taken the GDL to progress to working towards the bar. They have gone on to various other institutions. I can't say exactly which specific course they have gone on to. I don't think we have clear data exactly on as to the specifics of that. And then there's also a question about the GDL versus an LLM conversion. Well, we don't offer an LLM conversion, so again, unfortunately, I can't give you the comparison.
I'll pick up that last one, Nicola, and then just because my brain will forget if we go through too many, I'll pick up the last one and then come to the earlier ones. The LLM conversion, it's the same answer as the GDL, PGDL. Yes, if you've got a very specific reason for wanting to do an LLM, which is level 7, absolutely, it's just it's like comparing a leopard and a lion. Okay, we are doing different things. And I think, you're touching on LLM conversion. We don't offer it. Some places offer it. One of the reasons, and again, this is, I'm no expert in student finance. I'm sure Nicola and Laura would know a little bit more. Some institutions offer that because it's linked to funding requirements rather than a qualitative difference in the programs themselves. So what I would say to you is, please be assured that if you do the GDL, you have everything you need in terms of the foundations of legal knowledge. Institutions offer PGDLs for other reasons, but there are also there are pros and cons to every course you take. If you do an LLM, it will likely be 12 months. That is very different to doing a 20-week program. So I think the very best advice I can give you is just look very carefully and think about what works best for you. And Nicola and Laura are absolutely fantastic in helping you tailor that learning journey for what you need for your. I can give you the big headlines, but if you want tailored individual advice, please do just get in touch with us. Now, to touch really quickly, I can see Nicola looking at me because the clock's ticking away, but I will be quick. Listen to me going fast. Touch quickly on destination data. Because we are a postgraduate course provider, rather than a campus university, we collect different forms of destination data. So you're all asking some really pertinent questions about destinations. It's not necessarily data sets we would automatically have to hand. So most of what I tell you will be anecdotal. We don't routinely aggregate destination data because many of our students, because of what we do, aren't going into employment. They're going on to do an SQE preparation course. That's what we're set up for. So people who do the GDL GDL or conversion, if we did provide you with destination data, it would probably say, 60-70% were going on to further study, as it does for most undergraduate law degrees, actually, if you look at the destination data. So as a legal educator, I can tell you that generally destination data that we're asked to collect tells you very little. It's not really telling you about employability, because most of our students are going to go on to do further education and professional training. Anecdotally, Nicola's smiling, I'm smiling, because we've probably all got in mind one of the recent students, one of our recent graduates who was in touch with us the other week, who I was thrilled about, who's just got a place with the Government Legal Service. I don't know if you saw that email, Nicola, from one of our graduates who'd been taken on by the Government Legal Service, which was brilliant, because the legal market is competitive, and he'd been looking for a few months, which seems like a long time to him, but it hadn't been really, and that was a massive achievement. So we are still in touch with graduates. I've just had some really pleasing messages from students the other week who've just passed their exams on the bar training course, and they've done incredibly well. So we have students that have gone off to train for the bar. We've had students that have won scholarships for training. We've got students that have gone on to SQE prep. We have a lot, and Nicola might have this figure, we have a lot of students that stay with us, don't we, for SQE prep, who go on from the GDL to do SQE prep. And we also have students, as I say, who came to the GDL because they wanted to know a little bit more about law, and they go on to employment with a little bit more law under the belt. Students like to go into areas like HR. I've had students in the past who've gone on to do estate agency, all of these kinds of areas. A little bit of law can be helpful. So students come for all kinds of reasons, and they go to all kinds of different places afterwards.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kathryn. I think we've covered everything. I think some questions were coming through as we'd already sort of were answering them anyway. But as I've mentioned, I will send out a copy of the recording and the slides tomorrow. I'll put in some additional resources, linking into some of the questions that we've had there as well. But then please do come back to us. Anything else that you then think of that you'd like to know more information on, just reply to the email, and we can come back to you with a more detailed and specific answer to you.
Are we massively over time, Nicola?
But we're a bit, but if there's something else you can think of, I'm sure.
Oh no, I just didn't realise if we were over time. I'll be really, really quick.
Go for it.
There was one question somebody was asking about assessment results in the chat, and the what level people graduate at. I almost went and looked at the last assessment panel to see what results people got, because again, this is not something we tend to aggregate, because students come to us for different reasons, and students come from all kinds of different areas. So for some students, they come to me and they say, I just want to pass in this so I can go on, and they limit their study time according to that. So I don't really think data on levels of achievement tells you that much, because every cohort is different and people have different objectives. So as I say, some students come to me and say, I want to pass and I get through, and some students want to absolutely get a distinction. What I can say to you is our students overwhelmingly do very well, and it was noted at the last assessment panel, even though we have variations in cohorts. And for some students, getting 50% is doing very well. If you come from a very difficult background and you're working full time, it is a real achievement to pass the course and achieve the award. As I say, the biggest reason people don't progress or pass on the GDL is they don't submit the assessments, or they don't manage to attend the workshop. So overall, the level of achievement is high and good, but do be careful when you're reading assessment data, because it's very difficult to look just at that assessment data.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. We've had a really good turnout, which is great, and thank you for putting lots of questions through to us. As I say, please do come back to us tomorrow with any further questions that you have. We're happy to have a chat to you further at another time then as well. So I will finish the webinar now, and enjoy your evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.